You never know which Pokemon cards will explode next. I mean, if you bought the Mew Special Illustration Rare promo last year, you would have made an 8 times return. Though before I get into this video, today I'm actually gifting this Leafeon V-Star from Crown Zenith. Now, if I reply to your comment and I add the lucky Sylveon emoji, then well done, this Leafeon is getting sent your way. And of course, I always pin the winning comment once it's selected, so you don't need to trawl through hundreds of comments. And also, if you are new to the channel, hi, I'm Phil. I am a marketing professional that uses some of my career insights into the world of collectibles. Feel free to subscribe. The channel has really seen some growth lately, and it's amazing to see all the new people coming on board. Now, I mean, yes, sure, it sounds exciting, right? Doubling your money or tripling your money with Pokemon cards. Though the issue is, a lot of people see the value in a set or a card only once it begins rising. Before that, no one really cares, right? I mean, we can see that with Shrouded Fable right now. Since it's had some small market movement, everyone's like, oh, it was never that bad. You know, it was always awesome. Shrouded Fable always had a good artworks. It was never so bad. I mean, it was always awesome, right? Those illustration rares were great. I mean, that's only because they have the social proof to show that Shrouded Fable is now rising in value. I mean, do you have any idea how Shrouded Fable was seen on release? It was not like, dude. And like, now that's kind of changing, and that's perception, and that's why collectibles are very interesting. Though, the moment before the sentiment changes, that's where everyone needs to get good at picking those moments, because that little moment before the sentiment changes, I mean, that's the heart of Pokemon investing. Now, some cards don't always perform well either. I mean, there's examples of cards going in complete opposite directions, and I'm going to be speaking about that throughout this video as well. However, there's actually some amazing cards at the moment, and also there's a few Pokemon cards which are some of my personal favorite choices that I think that will be desired in the long term. Though in terms of the 7 Pokemon investments to look out for, starting at number 7, it's probably no surprise, but it is Shrouded Fable. Now, Shrouded Fable is, to me, one of the more interesting sets. The reason for that is the artworks are very unique. I mean, the Houndoom, the Dusclops line, right? You've got the Pheasantipity, the Monkey Dory, the Okidogi illustration rares. There's some really, really cool artworks in the set, right? Though, what's interesting is when Shrouded Fable came about, I think people expected a lot more, okay? Shrouded Fable's release slot of 2024 was the same release slot of Pokemon 151 in 2023. So because of that time period, I think people expected a lot from Shrouded Fable. Now, I'm not gonna lie and just say, oh, Shrouded Fable is one of the best sets we've ever had. I do think that the special illustration rares did leave a fair bit to be desired, okay? Though in saying that, I do think that the illustration rares of this set have definitely been really, really unique. I think the Horsea is amazing. I think the Persian and Cresselia all are really interesting artworks, and I do think in enough time, a lot of people will appreciate Shrouded Fable. One thing I've always loved about Shrouded Fable, right, even on release, was the color of its design and the booster packs. I think it's so unique. I think as soon as you see that set, you know, hey, this is Shrouded Fable. No shadow of a doubt. Super unique packaging and box art, and I do think as time goes on, maybe when more nostalgia bakes in for the DLCs and the Loyal 3, we may get some more interest in Shrouded Fable. And right now we are seeing some market movement, but I think in the future it's one to look out for sure. Also, while talking about all these cards and all the new Pokemon sets that are coming out, a common question that gets asked is, you know, how do I actually find out about new Pokemon news and Pokemon sets? And a great place to stay up to date with Pokemon and all the TCG news is through my channel's official Discord server. And a lot of the users share the latest updates within the Pokemon TCG. You can also hang out with some amazing people within the community. Feel free to join. The Discord invite is in the description of this video. Now, sitting at spot number 6, we have the Charizard VMAX and the Pikachu VMAX Hyper Rares. Now, as I was saying, the Pikachu from Vivid Voltage and the Charizard VMAX Hyper Rare. Now, the reason why I think these are so unique, because believe it or not, in early Sword and Shield days, these were the most desired cards. I mean, that Charizard VMAX from Champion's Path was so heavily desired, dude. Everyone wanted that card, man. I mean, that was so heavily desired. You can even see the price of that card were insane, right? Then when you go over to the Pikachu as well, this was once one of the golden chase cards of the whole era. But obviously, what happened after that? Alt arts got released with Battle Styles, Chill and Rain had alt arts, you know, then you had Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, all the kind of limelight, all the energy got taken away from these cards. But the reason why I think they're super unique at the moment is I don't think that they can really go much lower. Don't forget how how hard these cards are to pull. They're very, very rare in the set. Don't forget, hyper rares, right? The rainbow rares are some of the most difficult cards to pull in any set. So because of that, I do think there is a market available for them. And as time goes on and more nostalgia comes about, I do think these are going to be really interesting and heavily desired. Now, sitting at spot number 5, we have Japanese 151 booster boxes. Now, Japanese 151 is super cool, man. And I do remember that Japanese 151 back in the day was so hard to get. I mean, before we had the reprint, this was so expensive, man. It was like nearly triple the price of MRSP for a booster box. Once the reprint happened, which I personally believe is one of the biggest reprints we've seen in Pokemon's history, was the Japanese 151 reprint, it really made prices go down. But don't forget that this set was iconic, man. It was the first set to introduce Master Ball Reverse Holos. You do have a lot of expensive cards within the set, and the quality control of the set is sensational. I was actually looking at this set in a previous video, and the Charizard from 151 has actually over an 85% chance to come back as a PSA 10. When you compare that with the English 151 Charizard, the English 151 Charizard has around a 32% chance to come back as a PSA 10. So Japanese 151 really did have good quality control. Because of this, I do think the set has a great amount of promise in the future. And don't forget the caliber of artworks within this set. I do think right now, when prices are a little bit quiet and things have calmed down, we did have 2 waves of reprints, but I do think in the future, this one is definitely one to look out for. So moving on to spot number 4, it is probably no surprise. However, it is the Miriam Special Illustration Rare from Scarlet and Violet base, which was one of the most desired cards at the early Scarlet and Violet era. Now, the Miriam Special Illustration Rare. Now, you got to remember, right? This card came out in early 2023, and by mid 2023, what happened? The whole Japanese female trainer card boom happened, right? But this card was so desired when it came out in the Scarlet and Violet era, especially those early days. I do think this card is quite undervalued at the moment, and more than that, it is one of the top chase cards from Scarlet and Violet base, which is slowly becoming harder to find. Now, base sets never overperform, but they don't underperform either. If you look in history, all base sets have a very strong position in the market. Now, a base set is usually not the most desired set. Sure, in early generation 1 it was, but when we move further in the era, base sets are usually your kind of more muted sets. They're kind of, they almost feel a little bit watered down. Though in saying that, I do think this Miriam is in a good position to rise. Now, sitting at spot number 3, it is the Drowzee Illustration Rare from Scarlet and Violet base. Dude, what a hypnotic card. This is an example of one of the better artworks within the Scarlet and Violet era, and it's actually interesting because this is one of the most earliest cards from the era. As I was saying, man, this Drowzee just looks incredible. Check out the artwork, the way it looks. It is so reminiscent of the Magikarp Illustration Rare in its own way. I love these quirky artworks, man. I love it when these artworks really get drawn to life, and this is an example of why people love collecting Pokemon cards. Drowzee is an early Gen 1 Pokemon, and the market movement of this card recently has been super interesting. I do think that given enough time, this card can see even more growth. It is such a cool artwork, and I don't think we've even seen Pokemon card artworks like this for a long time. One of my favorite things about this, because it got released early, people were like, oh, we can't wait to see the next set and the next set and the next set. But guys, we are approaching more towards the end of the Scarlet and Violet era sets, and this Drowzee still is one of the best artworks we have seen. Now, at spot number 2, it is the Mew Metal card from the 151 UPC promo. Now, this is one card that is super under the radar. Now, the Gold Mew 151 UPC promo, this card is super unique. It is a metal card. Now, the reason why I think this one has a lot of potential is because if you look at the other 151 UPC promo, the Special Illustration Rare Mew, that's literally gone up so much in value. Now, this metal card is super cool, and there's only so many metal cards in existence. They're quite rare, right? I do think this one is quite undervalued given the fact that the 151 UPC is so expensive and that metal cards do have a niche collector audience. I think given enough time, you're going to see some really unique market movements with this Mew. Now, sitting at spot number 1, it is Stellar Crown booster boxes. I mean, come on, this set has some really gorgeous artworks. From Terapagos Special Illustration Rare, to the Lacey SIR, to the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle. There's actually a lot that this set has. One area area where I think this set got kind of hard done by is the timing of its release, right? So I mean, Twilight Masquerade had the Greninja SIR, right? And then that took all the limelight during this period, and a lot of people were just so obsessed with it. And then people really expected a lot from Stellar Crown, but when Stellar Crown was about to make its mark in the Pokemon world, Surging Sparks really took a lot of its limelight. So because of this, its release was always overshadowed as it felt like it was just sandwiched between two really high valued sets. Though it's actually a great set, and the food theme and the artworks is just really unique, and I think there's much more to Stellar Crown than people give it credit for. I mean, I do wonder how it's going to perform in the long term, and it is a smaller set, but that doesn't take away just how unique it is. I feel it will perform better than expected, but of course, time will tell. Though I suppose these videos are always very engaging and a lot of people enjoy them. But sometimes when making these videos, I speak about Pokemon products and Pokemon cards, but what about the actual Pokemon? Because some Pokemon always end up becoming expensive no matter which era or which card they are released as. And if you're wondering what those exact 7 Pokemon are, I reveal those in this video here. By clicking the video that's appearing on screen, you'll actually be able to go into the world of Pokemon and see which Pokemon always perform well no matter when they are released. Click that video that's appearing on screen and we'll talk more about it there.